G'day, legends, and welcome to the Thursday Sesh. I'm your host, Jared, and I'm here yet again with my Willie. How you going, Willie?
I'm doing all right. It's been hot as here in New Zealand, as they say. It's been absolutely cooking. It's only spring, and we peaked at 29 degrees today. At one point, it was just boiling hot. So
Good fun. Good fun. 29 degrees in New Zealand. Across the Dutch, bro. It's hot. It's not even 30. Gotta love it.
uh,
Nah, we've had one of those weeks over here in Melbourne where it's just been filthy hot in terms of humidity. So it's what I call a Queensland summer. But anyway, who gives a shit about the weather? We'll get on about the Celtic because how magic were they this morning? This morning, our time, last night over in Scotland. So how were? Oh, just interesting one there. So yeah, we've got a couple of comments here. So McLaughlin saying morning troops. He's got the kangaroos on the screen. Legend. Smell the glove. G'day, dynamic dudes. And here's one for you, Willie. What were we doing 30 years ago today? He's asking smell the glove as well. Let's see if anyone can figure it out.
I would have been 13. So
30 years ago would have been what? 90, 94? I don't know. I would have been, yeah, about 12 years old. There we go.
yeah,
Anyway, put it in the
it's a
comments,
cryptic
McLaughlin.
one, that.
Let us know what it was. So yeah, we'll just get straight into it. The main event. We've got to talk about the Champions League game. So Celtic won, Club Brugge won. So I'm just getting the starting lineup up because I had it on my phone and I accidentally just closed it down because I'm an absolute nuffy like that. So good fun. But yeah, it was pretty much the stock standard starting lineup that we expected. So Kasper Schmeichel in goals, Alistair Johnson, CCV and Trusty, and then the question for me as soon as I saw the starting lineup, Willie, was Greg Taylor at left back. Middle of the park, Engels, McGregor, Hatade. I had no issues with that going into the game. And up front, Kyogo, Kun and Maeda, no issues at all. What was your thoughts when you saw the starting lineup?
I wasn't really surprised when I saw the starting lineup. I think the Valle, however you pronounce it, the Baye Taylor issue seems to be the one that would have been the big talking point. But you wouldn't, after the showing against Leipzig, you would say, Taylor kind of deserves his place in the team. He did really well against Leipzig, and yeah, you wouldn't complain about him being in there, but it didn't pan out that way, did it?
Yeah, it was a bit of an interesting one because there was my notes, that what I was trying to write down during the game. It was yeah, I don't have a problem with Taylor playing. Let's get that off straight away. Like Vaille's been good when we've seen him. I don't have a problem with Taylor. I think it's, as I've said, it's horses for courses. Are we trying to play with more width, or are we trying to press and overload with the inverted in the back there? What are we trying to do? And what I find, and this is what I'm going to say, is when Vaille's in and we're playing with more, him can go up and down and bomb up and down that left, that frees AJ up to do more of the same on the right. But what I find is when Taylor's in and he's inverting, AJ's holding back a bit more defensively. So yeah, it was a bit of an interesting one, but yeah, we didn't lose. That's a good start. So yeah, they going into the game though, there was a few talking points. So Willie, I'll just get your general thoughts on the first half. Robert Gibson's given us his, but I can't actually say it just yet on the pod for another 10 seconds. So I'll just show it on the screen instead.
Uh,
Yep.
First half, yeah, they they had a very bright start and they were in our face and they stopped us from getting into a rhythm early doors, which really had a knock on effect throughout the whole half. They played some really good high presses that sort of forced us into some pretty silly turnovers of possession. But if you look at the stats for the half, you're looking at 50-50 possession wise. The passing accuracy is 88 to 85% for us. And an XG, I can't understand how we got 0.52 to 0.38. in our favour, slightly high. But yeah, it wasn't a great half of football from us. We just could not get a foothold in the game at all. Midfield three struggled. Um, like you say, they pressed us high, they pressed us hard, and it really got into our faces. And after 20 minutes, it resulted in a pretty comical own goal, which kind of allowed them to sit back a bit. Then they got the goal in front, and for me, they kind of sat off and they sat deeper. They tried to control the game from their own half, and they made a very good job of it because what they effectively did was they tried to get us to step out, and it worked really well for them because every time we turned over possession, they hit us on the counter, and it's something that they clearly scouted that we will, when we start pressing forward, we'll press forward and the defence will sit high, and they just allowed us to try and step up the pitch. And as soon as we were almost anybody giving the ball away too easily and too cheaply to them. And once they picked it up, it just hurt us with that transitions. And it seemed to be sort of recurring the whole way through the half. Players like Greg Taylor was caught out of position so many times in that first half. I was actually getting quite hungry. I had a guest at my couch CSC this morning. My daughter's off school at the moment, and she was sat there with me. I think she might have learned a few new sweary words to add to her repertoire when I was watching some of the play we were doing in that first half because it was really, really disappointing. They got the crowd into the silent mode where the crowd were just sort of sitting on their hands, mumbling and grumbling after 15 minutes because we just, like I say, we just couldn't get a foothold in that first half in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, just on that. So, first thing, when your daughter learnt some new swear words, did you at least tell her, okay, if your mum hears you saying it, you learnt them on the schoolyard? Because that's what we
Well,
had
Bird,
going on. Or was we learned them on the basketball court, you learn them on the schoolyard, so you could drop them and it was fine. But yeah, that's what you got to
never
get
done it.
that one in the repertoire there, Willie. But yeah, to the game
Yeah,
and everything, like their press was actually pretty odd. Like they pressed us in two separate areas on the pitch, but it wasn't where I thought they would. Like they pressed us high, and a lot of those passes in the first half, the 88% completion was, in my opinion, ball being bounced between centre back to midfield to centre back to the goalkeeper to the centre back and just bouncing it around there. Would have been heaps of passes that way. So they were pressing us high, trying to get at us there. But then what they'd also do is, if they couldn't establish their press early on, I saw them dropping back to halfway, getting themselves settled. Then they tried to press us just inside. Just once we go over the halfway, that's where they tried to press us and speed us up because we'd taken our time, we'd slowed and bang, pass the ball around, recycling it. Then they'd press us and try and hit us on the counter. And I actually thought they had more. They had their press when they're going on the full, like right up as our defence and goalkeeper and all that. I actually wasn't too worried. Yeah, they were pressing us. They were getting made us look a bit awkward in spots, but other than the own goal, and that's going to sound weird, but other than the own goal, I wasn't too worried with their press there. It was more when they got us across halfway and then they pressed us and then we turned the ball over and then they hit us on the counter. That's where I was more worried. I thought they got better balance in their attack and attack to different areas a lot better, particularly in that first half, rather than that. But at the same time, their press, I know when I went on the RB Leipzig podcast last time, and he said that it was that they played badly. It wasn't that us, and I basically told him, "Nah, mate," sort of thing. I don't think, and I'm not writing off because their press was they were impressive, right? They were good. Their press was impressive. There you go. I almost said that, but the thing was, I think that we just had a few players not quite right. Like if you have a look at it, Hatade just couldn't get into the game. The whole first half, Hatade, Engels, Kelmack couldn't get into the game. Kelmack's trying too hard, trying to present to create something in the middle, and then he's having to drop back basically two, 2-3 meters from the centre backs just to get on the ball. So our midfield was non-existent. So I just think that yeah, their press was great, but our midfield didn't really help us either. But yeah, bit of an interesting one. So, and we'll talk about the own goal. So there was a move to the goals here. I'm just trying to find the comment here. Where we got it. So, Smell the Glove saying Trusty has become the new CCV. And then it was where was Casper? Mandrew Galea. That question there, where was Casper? If you look at the wide shot, he'd actually positioned himself for, I think it was Kun, to pass the ball right back to him. So he'd moved across outside of his sticks, because if you're going to get a back pass as a goalkeeper, you don't want to be between your sticks, right? So he'd moved across to the other side so that instead of the ball going to CCV, Kun could have passed it straight back to him and he could have put the laces through the ball. So he positioned himself for that pass. And then when CCV got the ball, he didn't really look and he's just passed it where he thought he should be, but he didn't position it outside of the post. And unfortunately, we got caught out. Bit of a nightmare scenario there, but yeah, it was an interesting one here. So Robert Gibson is saying CCV is my favourite player. Have his name on my shirt, but he never looked when they passed it into our net. Yeah, exactly. And then McLaughlin saying Casper's getting away with it scot-free. No, he's still to blame. Like, the whole backline's to blame there. And then, yeah, there's a few other comments here. Paul Galanti saying a point was a fair result. We didn't have our shooting boots on. So, yeah, it was a bit of a interesting one. We always tend to, in Europe, have one of those bomb scare centre-backs. Someone who, like, I'm not saying CCV's a bomb scare, Willie. I'm saying, like, you know, we have one player that just has a bomb scare moment. Like, Dedrick Boyardi used to do it all the time. And then there's always been someone in our backline. Stephen Welsh has got a habit of it. Yeah, it's CCV just had an unfortunate situation, but well, we live, we learn.
Yeah, I mean, CCV, it's no often he makes mistakes. When he does, he's got enough credit in the bank to cover it. All right, he's going to use up a lot of credit in the bank for that one. Like, but yeah, Casper Schmeichel. I mean, Kuhn picks up the ball wide and he can't move forward. There's nothing. There's no options in front of him, so he turns and starts running back towards his own goal. He gets caught in a triangle of players and he tries to look to which way to play it out, and Schmeichel realizes that he hasn't got very many options to get to make a pass, so Schmeichel just moves away from his goalpost, and it's like, you say you don't want to receive the ball between your sticks as a goalkeeper, but you don't want to be leaving that wide open either for attacks or just in any situation like that. And Schmeichel just comes into no man's land to try and receive a pass which he didn't get in the end, and then CCV was unaware that Schmeichel had moved to the other side behind him and just turned around and tried to pass it to Schmeichel, who wasn't even there. And it's just, yeah, it's a perfect pass to the bottom corner of the net, right enough. Like, but that's about all you can say about it. You know what I mean?
Well, something I wanted to talk about later on, Willie, but we'll move it up now because we're talking about the own goal, is what I liked after that goal, right? It wasn't ideal that, you know, we had the own goal and everything like that. But the thing I want to talk about is leadership on the pitch. And I wanted to discuss it right now, like how many leaders we currently have in this team. So what impressed me the most is in previous seasons, we would have imploded. If we had an own goal, that sort of press, we would have leaked a couple extra goals, heads would have dropped, whatever, right? So we're going to talk more about lessons learned and the mentality and stuff like that later on in the pod. But what impressed me in this particular instance was after CCV's own goal, the leadership of Kalmack and Casper was evident in huddling the boys up, refocusing on the task at hand, like bringing the guys into a huddle. Kalmack's like talking to him. Casper's in there also showing his leadership. CCV's captained us before. Alistair Johnson's a leader. We got Bernardo wasn't on at the time, but he's the Portuguese under 21 captain. We've got plenty of leadership in the team, and that's something that I thought was, if we're going to find a silver lining out of leaking an own goal and going behind at home in a Champions League game, that huddle and the leadership shown particularly by Kalmack and Casper in that exact moment for me was the highlight of the first half for us as a team.
Yeah, I mean, we have leaders all over the pitch now. You've got Alistair Johnson, the full back line. Trusty, you watch him now, he's getting more confident as each game goes by. He's talking more to people around him. He's giving instructions and barking out orders. Schmeichel's a leader. Like you say, there's leaders all over. Even the Japanese boy, now that they're getting to grips with sort of becoming more competent with their English language, you can see them talking more on the pitch. Like you can see Kyogo pointing and telling players where he wants the ball to be played. You know, in the first couple of seasons, they were just kind of, you didn't see them speak much on the pitch unless it was to each other, sort of thing, because their English probably wasn't as good as what it is now. Like, so, yeah, there's leaders all over the pitch, and it's good to see because, like, in situations like that, like you say, they've rallied round. They had that sort of mini huddle after the goal went in, and just says, like, "What's going on here? We're getting past you pretty easily. Like, let's get tightened up. Let's try and get a grip of the ball and get a grip of the game." And yeah, it's like that's a situation. Seasons gone by where we've lost a silly goal like that when the heads have gone down, and before you know it, you're 2 or 3 nil down, and the game's gone. It's past you, like, so. It's good to see that there's a bit of resilience there.
Yeah, so I'm going to bring up a comment here by Big Rab. So what he's saying is, how can guys follow Kalmack when he was having a shocking game? He isn't a number 6, and again it showed up in Europe. We need a bigger, rougher player in there to mix it up. And then off the back of that, Andrew Galea said, honestly, if he wasn't captain, I would have subbed Kalmack at half time. His positioning was all over the shop. So off the back of them, Willie, I just want to get your thoughts on that because, as I said early on, I've already addressed the midfield. I thought the whole midfield was like we were playing 11 on 8 in the first half because our midfield was non-existent. They were all out of position. They were all over the place. No one really made an impact on the game. So, yeah, I'm not going to just target Kalmack, but, yeah, I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Listen, you got to give credit to that Bruges side. That Bruges side have scouted us pretty thoroughly, and they know how we play, and they know how to play through us. Like, and they utilise that very, very effectively against us. They put, what was his name, Van Aken, their captain. They put him on Callum McGregor, and he sat through him on him the whole game. Callum McGregor had to move around the pitch to try and find a bit of space to get himself into the game, and he couldn't do it because he was being shadowed by Van Aken. And you could see Greg Taylor was drifting into the inside of the pitch to try and help to create an overload in there, so there's an extra body in there. But we just couldn't get a grip of it, and that's when the sort of stray passes and the silly passes were coming out. There was times when, like, Taylor was going to play the ball to Maeda, and you could see Maeda was starting to run back towards the halfway line, and Taylor would put the ball over his head into the channel, and you're just like, what is going on here? Let's just try and get a grip of this game. It's difficult to turn around and say that it's all Callum McGregor's fault. It's not. Arnie Ingles had a really poor game, in my opinion. Like, I'm not going to jump on this bandwagon of that he's really, really bad. He's had some average performances so far, but last night was a pretty poor one. I think he was the poorest of the three for me. Like, Hatate just couldn't get into it at all. And when your midfield three is struggling, it has a knock-on effect to the whole team because that's the conduit for the play from the back to front. And we like to do that. If you're going to press a team high up the pitch, you need to have the midfield three firing on all cylinders. And when you're not firing on all cylinders, you see the results of that first half.
Yeah, so with Engels, like Robert Gibson was saying, he's too raw for these games. And Pegleg Lonergan saying, if Scales had done what Carter Vickers did, there would have been a meltdown. And McLaughlin with Scales would be getting it from all angles. Robert Gibson saying Scales probably wouldn't have done that. He's left-footed. So, and then Big Rab saying Hatate and Kalmack were shocking on positions. Hatate tracking back never happens. Leaves the whole left side weak and Maeda is covering. So, yeah, it's one of those ones. But as you said, Willie, like, what was it, Van Aken? He basically marked Kalmack. He just stayed all over him. And then you had, Onyedika. He basically took I think it was Engels and Jashari took Tade, and those three just went man to man on our three guys and
Yeah,
pulled their pants down. You know how we always joke that, um, you know, Tavernier is in Mader's back pocket a week after a derby. I think our
yeah,
midfield at half time were in their pockets.
yeah. I mean, the boy Scov Olsen, he had Taylor on toast. I mean, that Scov Olsen would love to play Greg Taylor every week. He had a great field day out there on their right hand side of the pitch. It was just a really, really poor half of football from us, and it's very, very seldom you see us play that badly. But tonight we did. And this was a game we all looked at and thought, well, this is a game we can win, and you can see why Club Brugge are regarded as a Champions League team, and they're there on merit, and they get the results that they need to get when they need them. They've beaten Villa, they just lost away from home to AC Milan. And then you've got a draw against us, so they're racking up the points, and they'll be looking at the playoff spots now too. They're a point behind us in the table, so. Yeah.
Something funny about Club Brugge, I'm going to say it this way: they're what I hope we become in terms of a quality European team that's in the Champions League every year, is bringing through players for the player trading model that they have, where they're constantly bringing in a player, selling a big player, developing players, bringing them through, but they're consistently in the Champions League and they know how to mix it up and win games and be physical, when to be physical, when to press, and they automatically know that even though they're young, and we'll touch on that a bit later on. But I like what they do in terms of they know the ropes, and we need to get to that, and we're developing in that regard. But when you've got Skov Olsen there, who was someone we highlighted on Monday, and he's going at Greg Taylor, who's inverting and in too slow to recover, it's given him all the time in the world. But the funniest part about Bruges, and what I wanted to get to, Willie, before I went on that little tangent, is their last three Champions League goals, time the ball went in their net in the Champions League, okay? The last one, just now, was ruled off of VAR for offside. Rightly so. The one before that was CCV scoring for him. The one before that was Tyrone Mings thinking he was playing volleyball or something like that. So realistically, they're picking up points here and there. They got 3 points at Villa. They got 1 point up at Paradise. They haven't scored a goal themselves in two Champions League games, but they're getting points. So you can't fold it at the end of the day.
Nah, you can't. I mean, if they had a decent striker up front, I'm not saying Utkala was bad, but just if they had somebody had a bit of quality about them up front, that could have been a very painful first half of football for us. So
they sold their gun striker who scored 20-something goals from last season. I think it was to Brentford or Burnley or something in the off season.
Yeah.
So yeah, that they sold him for. Let's be honest. The money they got for him is pretty much the money we tend to always talk about. It's like the Kieran Tierney / Matt O'Reilly level of money. So, and then their main number 9 this season is injured. So, yeah, it could have been an interesting first half. But anyway, to the second half, I thought it was pretty much more of the same to start the second half. And then we got the subs going. And, yeah, so realistically, we're struggling a bit. Taylor comes off, Vaya comes on, suddenly balances our back line a bit better. And we're able to get up the field. And Bernardo coming on for Engels. And, it was... I think we actually started to get on top in the midfield a little bit more. We looked a bit more balanced in the middle of the park and across the back line with those two subs. And that was the turning point in the game. And then for that last 30, 35 minutes of the game, we were the best team on the pitch by a mile. In my opinion, we were so much better than them. But I reckon if the game went another 5-10 minutes, I'm going into Stevie G territory here, so I apologise. But if it was 10 minutes longer, we would have won that. But seriously, That's how on top of them we were. They looked out on their feet. So, yeah, it was Mader's goal was just class. Disallowed goal definitely was offside. What was your take on the second half, Willie, and the goals?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think we came out in the second half, and I felt we responded. We didn't respond to what was happening in the first half until the subs were made. So if you look at the start, but then the starts made prettier reading in the second half. We had like 71% possession to their 29, then 92% passing accuracy to their 73. But the XG, both of us were like ours was extremely low. We had 0.19 XG, they had 0.71. But like I say, I don't think we really got going into the game until the subs were made. Once Vi came on, it allowed me to press higher up the pitch without having to turn around and look and say like, where is Taylor? Where not is Taylor on this pitch? Because it's a difficult task when you're trying to work the whole left flank on your own because Taylor's drifting into the middle of the pitch, which is what they kind of just expect Dyson and me to do. But when Valle comes on, he likes to overlap, which allows Dyson Maida more freedom to attack, which is his primary function on the team. He's not a fullback, you know what I mean? And too often we just rely on him to do the defensive duties, like so. But for all the possession we had, we failed to really carve out any clear cut opportunities. They defended really well. Another thing they did really well was they kept Kuhn very, very quiet. Kuhn did have some very good chances, but they were far and few between because he was marked out of the game.
On
But
that, Willie,
this
I'll
is
just jump in
established.
there.
Yeah.
I'll just jump in there for a second. On that, what's his name? Their left back, De Cooper
Oh, the
on
Cipri,
Kun.
the Cupri.
Now,
Yeah.
now that last half an hour. That was the battle. That was the battle until
Yeah.
Kun come off. Those two going at each other. I was like, that was class. Like we talk about. I'm just gonna go on a quick tangent before I throw it back to you. But I said this in our group chat. I would break our club record to sign De Cooper and bring him in. If he's 12 million, if he's 15 million, I don't care. That's the sort of leveling up player we need at that left back position. Johnson can do the job out on the right. That's the sort of young player. He's 23, he's 6 years old. He's 23 years old, he's 6 foot.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's just the perfect balance of attacking and defensive ability. Like that's someone that would take us to another level. But sorry, Willie, back to what you were saying.
No, I was just going to close off my thoughts on the second half. Is that Bruges are an established European side, and it showed. And the game for me, it was two well matched sides that were battling out for a hard fought draw. This, like I said in our group chat, this game kind of reminded me when Strachan was here. We played Shakhtar Donetsk at home, and we're kind of expected to beat them. As the game wore on, it was 1-1, and I think Massimo Donati scored a very late goal late on to win the game. And the more that second half wore on, the more I got sort of the vibes of that game as I was watching it. But the late winner never came. But like you say, maybe if we played for another 10 minutes, we would have got it. Yeah, I mean, we ended up with a point. We probably, on the balance of the play throughout the whole 90 minutes, we probably a point more than what we deserved. But then, yeah, like I say, two well matched sides battling it out, and it's a hard fought draw.
So I'll bring up a couple of comments here. So Big Rab is saying Rogers got it wrong playing Hatade. Engels' level have dropped since Hatade has come back into the team as Engels is covering his positions on the park. Celtic lose the ball. Bernardo and Engels it is for me. Andrew Galea is saying overall the points shared is what we deserve. Neither team dominant. Robert Gibson saying Voyer is so much better than Taylor. We have to get him from Barca if we can. They got a bit of an injury problem. There's talk he's going to be recalled. Let me say this properly so that my accent doesn't catch anything out. McCowan should have replaced Hatade. He was off at it. He was off it. And then, just going through it here. Like McLaughlin saying, I said to you yesterday, I thought Trusty would be rested. Yeah, I'm happy with that. RL77, Vaya should have started. So yeah, it was a bit of an interesting one overall. Yeah. Come on, mate. I know. It's for the academy. So yeah, it's just one of those where we got the points. Well, we got a point each. So oh well, what are we in our 3 home games? 2 wins and a draw. If you
Yeah.
said before the game started that after 3 home games would have had 7 points on the board, you'd be biting the hand for it. So yeah, so Willie,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just going to say player focus time. We'll go through the squad quickly and we'll just give a sentence or two on each player and what we thought of their performance overall.
Yep.
So Casper Schmeichel,
6. Horribly out of position to compensate for some lack of options for Kuhn to make a pass, but he had some fantastic saves in the second half, and his distribution is class. So yeah, 6 for me.
are we giving him a ranking? Okay.
Oh, I
Cool.
thought that's what we were going to do. Like, sorry.
I was just going to say just a sentence on how we thought they performed. Because
All
every
right.
time we give
Okay.
a ranking, we
Go
always tend
on.
to give everyone 6s, 7s, or 8s. It's about it. So I thought let's just give a
Yeah.
little spiel. So yeah, I thought Schmeichel, other than the own goal, it was pretty solid. The leadership that he showed, as I said early on, was impressive. So across the back line, Alistair Johnson.
Yeah, 6. Solid enough defensively. Worked hard all game. He kept Solace pretty quiet throughout the game. I'd be pleased with his showing. He's showing he's comfortable at this level, so he's showing he is a Champions League level player. Yeah, so yeah, good performance from Johnson.
Yeah, I thought he was relatively quiet in the first half. Second half seemed a lot more like himself. And then Carter Vickers, we've already touched on. So other than the own goal, he's pretty solid himself there. His usual performance.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, solid. Brain fart, and pretty solid otherwise.
Austin Trusty, our best defender in the game.
Yeah. I'm impressed massively with his reading of the game, Mike. He did the simple things well, and he kept the Brugge frontman quiet. Really starting to take a big liking to how Trusty's playing for us at the moment.
And then Greg Taylor.
Skov Olsen, like I said earlier, Skov Olsen would love to play this guy every week. Constantly out of position, leaving Dez and Maida to defend the left side all on his own. Like, I'm done with Greg Taylor. Get him out, Sharon. It's him or me.
Talk is Greg Taylor is wanting about 24 grand a week on
I
a new
wouldn't.
contract.
I wouldn't. I
For
wouldn't
that,
pay Greg Taylor 2,400 a week. Get him out.
yeah. So he's got to be the long-term backup if he stays at the club. You don't pay 24 grand a week for a backup. So yeah, I kind of agree with you a little there, Willie. Middle of the park, Callum McGregor.
Yeah, he was marked out of the game. He was probably the better of our 3 in the middle of the pitch, but it still wasn't his best game.
Yeah, Cal Mack, I thought was pretty much invisible the first half. Second half started to come back into the game a bit and actually do something. So yeah, needs to do better in the next European game. Rio Hatade.
Yeah, Rio Hatate, he went from having a complete performance against Leipzig to a sort of lamentable one here this time round. He played a bit better in the second half, but our midfield 3 really struggled to get a foothold in this game at times, and yeah, it kind of showed with him as well.
Out of position, misplaced too many passes, and didn't work hard enough defensively.
Yeah.
And then Arnie Engels, we pretty much touched on him already. As long as he learns something from this, I'm good with it. But
Yeah, he's been, I think, just. Sorry, mate.
Go on.
No, I was going to say he's done nothing to dispel his doubters there a game like that, but aye.
And then Nicholas Kuhn.
Yeah, tried to get into the game, limited service and tight marking. Struggled to make an impact. When he did get the ball. He did well enough, but he was well marked in the game. So
Yeah. Yeah. I thought, as I said, last 30 minutes, Kun versus, was it De Cooper? Great football. The rest of it, yeah, didn't really have much anyone in the midfield to get the ball to him, really. So, yeah, it was a bit tough slog for him. Dazen, just a workhorse. It's the easiest way to sum him up. And his finish was
yeah,
class.
showed as you usual high levels of high intensity throughout the game. Great strike and capped off by slipping on his bum to make it look Maeda-esque.
And then Kyogo. You go first on this one, Willie.
Worked tirelessly, but he was feeding off scraps as the midfield misfired throughout the game.
No service, but not through his own fault. He still made a lot of the runs that he would normally make. So, yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one there. So, who would be your man of the match, Willie? For us and for the overall game?
For us, probably Trusty. I thought he was solid and dependable. In the game overall, it's hard to pick a man in the match. It was quite well. He's quite evenly balanced sort of game. I'm trying to remember who was playing for them.
I've
In
got
their team,
5 players that it could potentially be for the game overall. If you want me to rattle
probably their
for you.
De Coupry probably was their best player. I would say. Like.
So for me, if it's one of our players, it'll either be Trusty or Maeda. If it's any of their players, it'll either be Skov Olsen, De Cooper, or Says at their right back. I thought those were their 3 best. Anyway. So off the back of that match, like I touched on it earlier. We've got a couple of comments here that are flagged, so I'll just bring them up as a tie-in for it. But Pegleg Lonigan has said this. In fairness, lads, Brugge is a very good young side that's well coached. Their academy is light years ahead of ours. And then to follow up off that, there was another comment from Pegleg down here as well saying, Brugge is a model for us to follow. We have to sort out our academy. It's an utter shambles. Now, that's the next topic that I wanted to discuss here with you, Willie, was off the back of the match this morning for us. I want to discuss how impressed I am by Club Brugge bringing through Champions League level of players. Like the fact that they had only 3 starters on the field that were in their 30s. The oldest player was their goalkeeper, Mignolet, and then they had a 32-year-old and a 33-year-old or something like that. And the rest of their squad, the next oldest was 23, which was De Cooper, or however you say it. And everyone else was under the age of 23. So both of their fullbacks and their midfield dominated us, and the majority of those players all came through their academy. So I just want to give them their flowers, give them their props. I like what they're doing, and I hope like hell we could eventually get there one day. But yeah, I'm just looking at it going, Willie, what's it going to take for Celtic and Scottish clubs in general to develop and make players of a similar standard to what Club Brugge is doing? Will we be able to do that, or has that ship passed us by, in your opinion?
I don't think it's passed us by, but it needs a massive overhaul of the whole league system in general. And I just don't think out with clubs the size of Celtic, Rangers, maybe Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen, I don't think any of the other clubs in Scotland are going to be interested in that sort of stuff because it's going to jeopardise places. And we've got 42 teams in the league as it is. There's probably too many teams in that league, and too many of them just see it's the country club. You know what I mean? My team's in our team's in a league team, and it's a closed shop. To circle back on Belgium, their team played in the World Cup in France '98. They got eliminated in the group stages, and they went away. They sort of put a think tank together and came up with new ideas, because up until then, Belgian football was about counter attacking, playing 4-4-2, 3-5-2, playing sort of formations where you draw teams onto it and counter attack them. And they went away and they had a look at what was happening in Holland. They went and had a look at what was happening in France, and they proposed that all youth team setups in Belgium start playing a 4-3-3 sort of formation. And from there on in, you look at what's happened. You've got Thibaut Courtois, De Bruyne, Moussa Dembele, not our one, but the other one, Steven Defour, Witzel. All these players have come out of this sort of direct thinking. And like, one of the key aspects of it is they allowed the youth teams, the club NXT, the Young Gang, the RCA Futures, which is Anderlecht's team, Standard Liège have a team. They all play in the championships. They all compete. They can't get promoted to the Premier League or the Jupiler Pro League, but they play in the I think it's the Challenger Pro League or something like that, which is the championship. So, like, this is where their teams are streets ahead of us, because they're playing at a higher level, and the young boys are playing competitive football against decent opposition. They're not playing lowland league against a bunch of hammer throwers. Like, and until Scottish football actually wakens up, smells of coffee, and realizes this is the way to move forward, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, so it's a combination of that. I agree everything you've said there, Willie. But it's like there's a whole bunch of things as well. Like, if we could have, like, I'll bring up a few of the comments here. So RL77 is saying we don't have the reserve team league needed to regularly develop young players to the level required, which means, as you said, they're playing in the lowland league, and it's not a good enough level. And then Robert Gibson saying not having a reserve league is a disgrace. But then there's also this from here, from Robert, saying we should have a 16-team Premier League. Why not? And then on another comment I wanted to say here is smell the gloves, spot on. If we want to develop our players, we need decent coaches. Like, I don't know if Johnny Hayes is a good coach or not. I don't know if Darren O'Day is a good coach. It's like jobs for the boys sometimes. Do you want to get the best of the best standard you can get all the time? So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one there. Yeah, Smell the Gloves said a similar thing. Stop employing jobs for the boys. Go out and get the best academy head and best coaches below him. Spot on. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Some of the other clubs won't want to do it, Willie, but as Big Rab's saying here, Belgium fund their under-21s as a national college project. Scottish clubs are self-serving, and our SPL is a joke. Celtic have to take the blame as well for not paying the going rate for Scottish players. Well, a statement of intent would be if we could get, what's his name, Lennon Miller, and we pay 5.3 million, which is what's expected, is the going rate, then we've got to start doing that. If we want to get the best young players in Scotland, pay the money for them.
That's it, right?
So yeah, it's a bit of a interesting one that there's always a pathway to fix it. So yeah, and then Robert Gibson, spot on. I blame Palmer for everything. I'm going to say it. Why sign a player like Palmer? He's not up to standard. You spent how much on him? £3.5 million on Palmer. That money could have funded the academy for a year. But are we going to get any players coming through, or are they going to get developed to a standard and then piss off down the road to England, because technically it's the UK, it's not Scotland and England, so the cross-border thing doesn't really do anything. So, yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can buy the best players coming out in Scotland, but unless there's a pathway for our own young players to start coming through, then it's never going to work. I mean, you look at all the top leagues around Europe. The Dutch allow their young teams to play in up to the championship. The Germans is 2 divisions below. It just makes sense. The Portuguese, I mean, the Portuguese teams make massive amounts of money from player sales of youth players and that, like, and their youth teams are in the championship or league below the Premier League for them. It works. It's tried. It's trusted. It works. It's been proven that it works. And in Scottish football, oh well, we've got teams who are in they're in the third division and they don't want to give up their place. Well, we can't have the Celtic or Rangers teams getting promoted out of the lower league. Even the lower league teams didn't want them in there. I mean, this just goes to show how backward Scottish football is when it comes to moving forward. Like,
Yeah. I'm going to bring up a couple of comments here. So Heavy Vibes is saying, would Miller get a game for us? At this current spot right now, no. I'd be signing him and for the rest of this season, stay at Motherwell and keep playing. And then have a look at him next season, in the off season, and look to bring him in. Because honestly, I look at him going, could he be Hatade's long-term replacement if he moves on? I don't think we'd lose anything there. So that's the sort of thing I'm looking at in that regard. And then, then we got a comment here as well. Pegleg saying Miller is a big lad. He wouldn't look out of place on that Brugge team. So it's one of them where I look at it and go, Lennon Miller is at Motherwell, okay? But every time I've seen him play, he could do a job for us. McCowan, there we go, I said it properly, McCowan. He's good enough, okay? Was Lewis Ferguson good enough? Is Josh Doyle good enough? There's so many players that have been at those other clubs within Scotland that would have been good enough for us, but we didn't sign them. They've gone to Italy in particular, and they're doing well. So, yeah, it's one of those things. And Big Rab's touching on this as well, which is what I was talking about before, saying Bruges have been at Champions League level for 6 years and have spent the money wisely on their team. They were whipping boys in their first 4 seasons. We've been whipping boys in the Champions League every time we've been there pretty much for the last decade, other than Rodgers' first season there. So, yeah, it's one of those things where if we can get in there consistently year on year, and at the same time fix our academy, we're flying. And McCowan ain't a kid, he's a seasoned pro. He hasn't played top-level football, though, until last season. So I'm referring to that side of it, not to his age in terms of he's always been someone coming through the leagues. But it still shows that there's players out there. That's more what I'm referring to. So, remaining Champions League fixtures, Willie. We got 3 games left. I think our next game is Dinamo Zagreb away, isn't it?
it is, yeah.
And then we've got
It's
Young Boys. Just for the Huns watching, Young Boys Burn, their official name. So I don't just refer to them as Young Boys. So you think we're talking about dudes or whatever. So Young Boys Burn coming up at home, and then we've got Villa down at Villa Park. So where do we pick up points in our remaining games, Willie?
I reckon if we get 4 points from the next 2 games, we'll be pretty much assured a playoff spot. Like, so, getting a draw in Zagreb and a home win against Young Boys, and then it's just a free hit against Aston Villa in the final game of the season. I think that top 8 spot, last night's draw has probably ruled that out. There might be a slim outside chance of it, but no, I think just cementing that, trying to finish as high up the table as possible and get a better draw when it comes to, I don't know, is it a draw, or is it like 8th plays 24th or 9th plays 24th, or
9 plays 24, 10 plays 23, and so on.
Yeah.
So realistically,
yeah.
Go on, sorry, Willie.
No, I was just going to say finishing as high up the table as possible is the best way to go.
Yes, I'm just looking at the table at the moment. We're currently sitting in 20th on 8 points, and we are 4 points ahead of 25th, which is missing out. So the teams below us is Feyenoord in 21st, Club Brugge 22nd, 23rd is Dinamo Zagreb, 24th, Real Madrid on 2 points less than us. And then the next team down there, 25th. So the team that is just not making the knockout stage is PSG on 4 points. So it shows how tight it is. But if you look at the teams we've still got to play, You've got, what do we got? So I've just said there, Dinamo Zagreb are in 23rd. Then we've got Young Boys, who are in dead last, haven't picked up a single point. And then to finish it off against Villa, who are in 9th, and they're only 2 points ahead of us. So it's very, very tight. So if we can play the way we played the last 30 minutes in the game this morning against for the whole game against Zagreb, we could pick up points. It's a tough place to go. The players won't get much sleep going into the game. But I think if we play at our level and we play to the standard of what we can do, we could go there and get 3 points. If we went away there and came home with 1 point, I'd be happy. And then if we pick up 4 in that, as you said, Willie, then beat Young Boys at home, and then Villa, it's a free hit. If we somehow manage to get the 3 points against them, we might be up around that 9th, 10th, 11th place. So there's still points there to be played for.
Yeah, I mean, 4 points. Like I say, 4 points from the next 2 games, and you'd be pretty much. I would say you'd be in the top half of that playoff spots. So it'd be one of the better sort of draws to get in the next round. Villa game is going to be very difficult. Hopefully, they'll have a top 8 spot sort of cemented by then, and we might get a sort of lesser team fielded for that game. They might rest a couple of players here and there, but the chances are both of us will go into that game needing something.
Smell the glove saying top 8 was always going to be really hard as the big money clubs are beginning to wake up. Always happy with top 24. I would love to finish 9th through to 16th so we get the home leg in the knockout at home. We get the second game at home in that. So yeah, it's I think that's how it works. But anyway, we'll all see that. But what else I wanted to know, Willie, was what lessons has this morning's game shown us that we need to take on board for the rest of the season and beyond if we want to be regulars in the Champions League? For me, it's the fact that we fought back from dropping behind because of our own mistake, as I said early on in the pod. Previous years, if we did that own goal, we would have dropped our heads. We would have leaked another 2-3 goals, lost the game by 3 or 4 goals and just imploded. So the fact that we went behind by a goal, which was our own fault, then fought back to at least take a point out of the game, shows that we're learning and we're starting to improve at that level. So, Willie, what lessons do you think we'll take on board?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there that losing a goal doesn't mean the game's gone. You know what I mean? Instead of letting your heads go down, get your heads up held high and get back out there and get at them. So that's one of the big lessons you can learn. And I think another thing we've learned is that teams the size of Club Brugge and Celtic can compete at this level, and we've shown that in a very well matched game against each other that we both deserve to be there. And I think we're starting to realise that now, that we do deserve to be at this level. Whereas the last couple of seasons you were drawn as a 4th seed. You're looking at a top pot seed. You're always getting a tough second pot team coming out of there, and you're always looking right where we're going to get points. And there's always going to be a team from the third pots, so you could or could not get a point off them here or there. But that's why we always end up with low points tallies, the 3s and the 4s and the 1s and that. In this new format, we play two games against pot 4 teams. We play a couple of games against pot 3 teams, and these are the games that we can get points from. And you're seeing it now as a result that we're getting points on the board. We're not going to be eliminated from the tournament with just 1 point or maybe 3 points. Do you know what I mean? There are points to play for, and it's just about taking your chances when they come along, which Celtic are showing they can do.
Yep. So Square Sausage Mick is saying lessons learned has been an upgrade on Kyogo. Robert Gibson saying not to take games for granted. Slow starts are not on at this level. And then Smell the Glove is saying lessons, stop farting about at the back and sometimes just launch it, but I'm old school. And Square Sausage Mix responded, if in doubt, boot it out. So, yeah, I'd agree with that. Sometimes you just got to put the laces through the ball if need be and, just do whatever you got to do to win. And if it doesn't look pretty, so be it. So, before we go on to previewing the weekend's game, www.celticdownunder.com. Go to our website. On there, you can find the Celtic Down Under merch, hoodies, t-shirts, drink bottles, the works, if anyone's interested in that. While we're at it, I'll put this little ticker on the bottom of the screen the rest of the show, so hit the like button, helps us with the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to Celtic Down Under channel on YouTube. If you haven't already done so, we appreciate each and every one of you who tunes in every week. And Willie, we'll get into the previewing of the game. So we got Ross County on Saturday. It's a Saturday 3 p.m. kickoff over in Scotland because it's Sunday 2 a.m. here at home. So what are your general thoughts heading into the game?
Yeah, I'm expecting to see a few changes for this match. I'd imagine Taylors, Engels, and Hatate will go out. Baye, McCowan, and Bernardo will come in. County's forms up and down. Generally, they're doing okay this season, but that's at home. I think it's us that's at home in this game, is it?
Yeah, it's our home game.
Yeah, so probably be an uphill challenge for them. They're not so good on the road, but at home they're a decent team. So I might be tempted to give Maeda a break as well. He seems to be tired. I mean, he pretty much ran that left side himself for 60 minutes tonight. So yeah, I think it's going to be a comfortable one.
Yeah, so for me, my general thoughts heading in is, we want to have some rotation, but not too much. My next thing I was going to ask you, Willie, is how do you think this will back up from the Champions League game? Will there be much squad rotation? But you've already answered that. So, yeah, I'm just thinking it's one where I'd probably be resting up a couple of players. I think McCowan needs to come in from the start. I'd see him in for Hatate. I'd like to see Bernardo and Engels play together with McCowan. I think that'd be an interesting midfield three there to see how that looks. Pretty dynamic. Everyone can cover for each other, multiple positions. So it would be I think that would actually be a nice one to get a look at. Across the back line, Valle in at left back. The rest can stay as it is. Would you take CCV out and put Scales in and move Trusty across? If he hadn't had the own goal, I probably would have. Now I want to stick with him. But at the end of the day, the only other change I'd be making would be Adamita to start up the front. That's about it for me. So, you're going, Willie.
I was going to say, would you play Adamida from the start, or would you just give Kyogo get a decent lead going with Kyogo up front and then throw Adamida on after that? Like tire the Ross County centre backs out with Kyogo's pace for a wee while.
Let me have a look at something quickly, and then I'll give you an answer to that. So we've got Ross County on Saturday, and then Wednesday night we've got Aberdeen away. I'd be playing Ida from the start, trying to get Kyogo fresh for the game up at Pataudry. So there you go. I actually made sense for once. I actually looked something up rather than just spinning shit. So happy days. So yeah, overall, I think the key area for us to focus to win the game is putting the ball in the back of the net. We're being wasteful the last two games. So if we get in the right positions on the field, actually scoring some goals. Be nice to run up a bit of a score on them. So what's your expected starting lineup, Willie?
Expected starting lineup is Schmeichel's. Peter Schmeichel, Kasper Schmeichel even. I'm getting late here. Johnson, CCV, Trusty, and Valle in the midfield. Kalmak with Bernardo and McCowan, and the front three of Maeda, Kuhn, and Kyogo.
Yeah, for me, it's pretty simple. It's going to be, I think I pretty much wrote it off before, so it'll be Casper in goals, Alistair Johnson. I'll be keeping Carter Vickers and Trusty in, Valle at left back, midfield three, I've just already said that. I'd want Bernardo, Engels, and McCowan. Up front, Adamita, wings, Maeda, and Kuhn. But I wouldn't be shocked if Jamesy did start in one of those positions, and if say if Maeda was out and Jamesy was on the left or whatever, I wouldn't be shocked to see it. But yeah, we'll see how it comes out on the weekend. But score predictions, we've already got a I think Smell the Glove in the comments said 4-0, if I remember seeing it right. So Willie, what's your score prediction?
Oh, Smell the Glove's gone for 4. I'll go for
No, it was
5.
Peg Leg Lonergan actually who said that. You can say the same, Willie. What do you got?
Nah, I'll go for 5-0.
Fair enough. I'll go 5-1 because it sounds like a good score. And just for a laugh, Cameron Carter-Vickers' own goal for their goal. Just to make it a shit week for him. So with that, there we go. McLaughlin saying 4-1, Smell the Gloves 3-1. So what we'll do, Willie, is we'll go to our final thoughts for the pod. It's just hit the comments what I was going to make for my final thought, which was having a bit of a laugh. We get to get a bunch of Star Trek. So we get a bunch of Star Trek jokes and stuff with the new CEO over at Ibrox, Patrick Stewart. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. But how about you, Willie? What's your final thought?
Final thought of the night is wear sunscreen when it's mad hot, or you'll end up burnt across the back like I am.
Good on you, Willie. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Be back next week. Hail, hail.
Cheers.